I did have an executive say to me, "You can't meditate your way to profits." We did show them otherwise in the
You
end.
did. Welcome to the Things You Can't Unhear podcast. I'm your host, Maritza Barone. In this show, I will introduce you to ideas, concepts, and mindsets that will open your mind to a new world of well-being and personal life growth. Through eye-opening interviews, we elevate people in the world doing amazing things for humanity and share insights that will shift you to become the happiest, healthiest, kindest, and most compassionate version of you. Hello and welcome again to the Things You Can't Unhear podcast. Now, I've invited numerous entrepreneurs on this show because I believe the mindset you need to be an entrepreneur can be so fascinating. And the idea or the image of what we have in our minds of what it means to be an entrepreneur has really started to adapt in recent times more and more, with so many entrepreneurs bringing heart, community, and a positive social impact to what they do. So today, I have with me the wonderful Radek Sali, most well known for his leadership within the Swisse Wellness Group. Now, to give you a bit of a background on his leadership journey, Radek started his career at Village Roadshow within an organisation making a global impact, which he says taught him a real sense of the foundations around big business process, management, and leadership skills. As a 28-year-old, he decided to test his skills elsewhere and joined the Swisse Wellness Group. When he came on board, the company was turning over $13 million, and 12 years later, under his leadership, they sold for $1.7 billion. Radek then successfully exited Swisse and used the proceeds to set up a company called Light Warrior, an investment group committed to creating shared value by investing in businesses that are socially responsible and environmentally conscious. He's now also chairman on numerous company boards for both businesses and not-for-profits, and he's spoken about his colleagues to have been the strongest conscious leader of his time. Welcome, Radek, to the show.
Very kind introduction. Thank you for having me.
I like to give an overview of who you are, so you don't have to jump into all of that so much, because I'm really interested in sharing who you are as a person. And I think that's where the gold's going to lie today, rather than hearing what you've done in the past. But before we jump in, just want to know how you're dealing with the times that we're facing right now around the pandemic and how life has changed for you.
Look, I think we're all feeling similar things where we're feeling a bit uncertain about the future. We're feeling a little bit closer to those closest to us. We're spending more time at home with our family, and we're working out what's important in life. And so for me, it's been a good opportunity to reconcile and reset and do it in a setting that isn't as kind of manic as life can get. You know, we fill it with so much that we think we have to do, and this has forced us to scale back and reassess. So whilst it's been difficult for a lot of our businesses, we're focusing on what's important and getting on with life.
Absolutely. I think it's important. And I think the biggest thing for many of us has been the major downs, but the major ups as well, and the potential and opportunity that we see within this. So no matter if you're feeling like, things are over and out, new opportunities tend to present themselves so frequently. So there's definitely good in this. I think we just have to look for it a little bit deeper.
Yeah, I always look back on my career and I suppose the best nuggets I've always got is when I've been most challenged, and yes, I've been challenged a lot in different ways that I've never been challenged before in, and I'm sure I'll be better for it. And if I look back on those times where that's happened for me in my career, I've definitely come out stronger, whilst it was really difficult at the time.
Absolutely. And I do want to jump into that a little deeper later on. But I want to start by talking about the word entrepreneur, because it has had different meanings and context given to it, and it seems to be adapting over time. So from a personal perspective, what does the word entrepreneur mean to you?
Well, growing up, it wasn't Christopher Skase. he was an entrepreneur back then. But then there were people like Rupert Murdoch or Richard Branson, and they were kind of the aspirational entrepreneurs that I kind of dreamed about being something like in the future, and I think if you're to become an entrepreneur, you need to do it with your own sense of authenticity. And so having a father as a professor of surgery and a mother as a medical scientist, doing something in the wellness space was always going to be something that felt like I was coming home and doing the right thing, because I'd kind of been around it so much growing up, and with your father as a lecturer, as a professor, you get lectured to a lot. And so he was one of the first people to talk about diet causing disease in conventional medical circles. And so, from a very young age, I was kind of taught about the importance of health and lifestyle and its effect on preventing chronic diseases. So I think that for me, whilst watching my father excel in what he did, but also seeing what he did, but also seeing a lot of the pushback he got from conventional learning and conventional universities that kind of really challenge new ideas, and so that was really stressful for him. So, for instance, in the 70s, he did a whole lot of work on diet causing disease, and that work didn't get published in British Medical Journal until the 1990s. So, the amount of frustration my father had in kind of trying to teach the system about this new thinking, and now that it's just normal, we get the fact that if you're not healthy, you'll probably die of a heart attack sooner than later. And so I suppose I watched that frustration and thought, well, how can I not be a doctor, because he works so hard and it's pretty thankless, but how can I make the world healthier and happier, but do it in my own way? And that's how, the whole idea of a concept of being an entrepreneur and disrupting the system and trying to do things that kind of move people forward and make it part of their life as a result of, my personal passion.
Must have been a fascinating upbringing that you were involved in, to have parents with that background and those, that driven nature to sort of disrupt an industry and push forward. And you've obviously taken a lot of that on in your personal life for what you've done in your own business.
Yeah, so definitely high achievers that expected a lot from me, and I've had to make sure I've delivered on that.
Well, you've certainly delivered well.
We've gone okay, and Mum and Dad don't worry about me so much as to, what I'm going to be doing next and so forth. So that's nice. But there's always other things, hey?
They've ticked the box, that success box. You've delivered well. Well, I want to talk to you about conscious leadership, because it's so important in today's society, and it's something that I think more and more businesses and corporations and companies are jumping on board with. But based on what I've heard about you through the grapevine and through interviews and podcasts that you've done, you seem to have done it very, very well. Now, obviously, there's got to be a belief system around this, and I'd love to know what that is, what your belief system is, and how you've successfully brought this into business to create a successful conscious leadership team.
Yeah, so I suppose it goes back to that authenticity. And so I mentioned people like Rupert Murdoch or Richard Branson. I like them or loathe them. They're authentically who they are, and they do whatever they've done extraordinarily well and manage to, I suppose, recreate and be as dynamic as the businesses, the industries that they're in, and sort of set themselves as new leaders, and their businesses refresh every year. And so you can see there's a thread going on with that. So I think about my personal thread and that link to health and wellness. And then I think about, okay, well, what about health and wellness? It's not just about diet, it's about lifestyle. And for you to make the right choices about what you eat, it's how you think mentally, and how you feel. And if you're going to choose something healthy to eat, you're going to be in a better state of mind. You're making the right choices, because you actually know what's, in this day and age, most people know what's healthy and what's not. And so we actually make a conscious choice to choose a healthy food item. And that's the same thing in everything we do, really. So, and consciousness gives us a heightened sense of this very feeling. And for me, it's an essential part of success in the way we do business. So if people feel great about coming to work with us and doing what they do with us, they're going to do an extraordinary thing. And how I liken it to is I've had, and I'm sure our listeners out there have been in the same situation as me. We've all had one bad relationship, boyfriend, girlfriend, husband, wife, and we know we've been bad for each other. And then you sort of finally break up with that person, and everyone tells you, oh, you should have always broken up, and they never tell you in the relationship. And then you're all of a sudden in a better place. And like with my wife in this day and age, it's the ultimate relationship because we challenge each other, we become better as a result, and we're continually looking to develop. And so that same relationship should be in your workplace, where we spend the majority of our waking hours, productive waking hours in our adult life, working. And so it should be an amazing relationship that helps you develop, you strive forward with that business, and the business strives forward as a result of that. And so that sense and that responsibility is something we expect of every CEO that works in any investment that we're involved with.
Absolutely. I think it's so important. And when you look at polls, like there's a recent poll that 88% of employees believe a strong company culture is the key to business success. So when you're transparent with your staff, and I think allow them to, have accountability and completely be aware of what the leader is thinking and the purpose and the mission and the vision of the company, I think it just takes you to completely different levels of success, which is obviously what happened under your leadership at Swisse.
Yeah, look, it definitely has been a big part of our success, and it's not easy to be honest. And it's always the first thing that comes up whenever you're doing kind of culture workshops and what our team members want from the organisation they work with. And honesty comes up, and you got to remind people it's a two-way street. Honesty is difficult. It's not just telling people how great they are at what they do. It's also saying these are the areas that need to improve, and it needs to be done in a way that's actively bringing people on the journey. And I liken it to kind of sports, or even going to the gym, as simple as getting a personal trainer. And we get a personal trainer because they encourage us and make us better at what we do when we go to the gym. And can you imagine going to the gym and the personal trainer says, 10 push-ups, 5 push-ups into your 10 push-ups that they've said to warm up, you look tired today, you're not going to get through it. And for me, when I talk to other people about other organisations, a lot of these organisations out there are exactly like that. The trainers around them are so negative that you just feel you lose confidence from the moment you walk in, that you're not going to get any further ahead, and you're just going to do what you know you can get by and get away with. So if we have better cultures, we'll gain more, but we need permission to be open and honest with each other, but we need to do that with respect and dignity and bring people on a journey.
It's so true. I mean, half of the time you do think it's, that praise that you're going to be getting through conscious leadership and great company culture, but the direct delivery of how things are honestly can affect people in different ways. So I think that's a big thing that we need to look at. And if people are in perhaps the right company but the wrong role, that's somewhere that they can potentially be reshuffled in an honest and open way. There's definitely loads of ways which you can look at it. But I want to have a chat to you more about your belief system and how you bring that into work, because I've heard meditation is obviously a strong part of your life, and you bring that into the workplace in a public way.
Yeah, so my wife and I decided that we both needed meditation 1 year for our wedding anniversary gift. So we gave that as a gift to each other. We got a great coach. And to sort of preface this, I've done meditation since being a young kid. I did Japanese ink brush painting, and the first 10 minutes of mixing the paint is a process of meditation. It's beautiful. And so that was from like 5 years old I was doing that. So it was great. And then, you know, I did yoga, and you'd always end with meditation. And then I'd go on, and nothing really sticked as regular, although I'm back doing yoga again 3 times a week. But, you know, really should be meditating daily. You know, if you brush your teeth every day for your health of your teeth, and then if you have a shower every day for your general hygiene, for me, you need to do something for your mind every day. Because, you know, it seems a bit laughable if you're not, if you're out there brushing your teeth and having a shower every day for your hygiene, because our brain is our most important asset. But you need to find meditation that works for you. And so this is my personal journey and personal experiences. I went and did mindfulness courses, and some people, mindfulness is fantastic. I just found mindfulness my mind would race too much, and I'd find it too painful to sit and take time out, because there wasn't a method to it that was satisfying me. And so for me, Vedic meditation, which is using a mantra, and which was this gift that my wife and I gave to each other, where a coach came to see us four nights in a row together, and just reassured us that, you know, when you take the pause and you focus on this mantra for 20 minutes, I do, and try and do it twice a day, but at least once a day. You got to look forward to it, and not get caught up in worrying about those thoughts. And those thoughts are actually you defragging and letting the system de-stress. So that was fantastic. So I wanted to share that experience with as many people as I could, and also quickly realize it's not for everyone. And you know, some people will get meditation from walking or going to the gym, or playing music, and just having time off where they know that they're getting away from their everyday thoughts, even going to a movie. So we did get a team at Swisse doing it, and we had at one stage over half the team doing it every day, twice per day. And I'd make a point. I couldn't really meditate with the rest of the team because my working hours are a little bit different to everyone else. You know, I'd start in at about 7:30 or 8 in the morning, just before most people got there. So I'd be either meditating then, which it was a very public place, my office, so people would see me meditate as they came into the office, or of an evening before I went home. So I was kind of relieved of the day's stresses, and I was in the best state I possibly could be to give my precious wife when I got home. So people again would see me at the end of the day meditating, and you know, and at times when it was tough, you know, I did have an executive say to me, "You can't meditate your way to profits." We did show them otherwise in the end.
You did.
But yeah, so it worked really well for us at Swisse, and we actually did a trial with La Trobe University, and we measured people's EQ and various stress markers, and what we saw was a significant improvement in those that did meditation for the 6-week period in EQ, emotional intelligence. So, and I don't know if anyone's been on the end of being told that they need to get more emotional intelligence. This is actually a tool that can help you get emotional intelligence, because it is quite a difficult thing to teach, is emotional intelligence.
Absolutely. So how were you responded to in a public setting at work when you brought these practices in?
Well, it's lucky because we're a wellness company, so we could get away with it, and our pillars as an organisation, that, you know, where we did anything around culture to reinforce what our culture was about, it was always around nutrition, mindfulness, and movement. So it sat under the mindfulness pillar, and there were a lot of people who were very interested in finding a meditation that worked for them, and so thankfully for the majority, and I explained some of the reaction that I got from some executives. And, you know, so thankfully for the majority, they were all really comfortable with it, and it worked really well. And
absolutely.
And it was probably a bit ahead of its time, because it was almost 10 years ago that we were doing it. So it's pretty unique for a company to be doing that. Now a lot more are doing it, and that's a beautiful thing.
Oh, it sure is. And, you know, you're no stranger to disrupting the market. So it's a perfect thing to do. It's all the rage now. So I think the more people that are meditating, the absolute better. When it comes to managing stress in your life. Obviously, that's one huge element. And being someone who's in leadership in business, you've gone through peaks and troughs of stress. What are some other non-negotiable well-being practices that you have in your life and that you use also in business?
Yeah, so for me, it's about my circle of influence and doing whatever I can control within my circle of influence to the best that I possibly can. And so that might be in knowing that you've got sort of significant times of stress. It's being really aware of your vices, and some of those vices might have been that in times of stress I might drink more than I should. And so there would have been periods of time knowing that I was up for a very stressful period that I wouldn't drink and make that choice to control that controllable. I would go for a walk with my wife and our 2 dogs every morning before work, knowing that that's the best state I'm going to be in. So I could give her my best because knowing that work was going to be less of a controllable, making sure that my closest relationships were as best as they possibly could be. And that would be the same too with team members that I really relied on, that would work closely with, would make sure we'd make time for them and go for a coffee together, go for a cup of tea together and just talk about what was going on, keep each other well informed, going to the gym. And more recently, it's been yoga for me. That's been amazing, and the mood I'm in as a result of committing to yoga 3 times a week is probably 3 times better than I was. So I think anything that you can do to kind of connect to with nature, and that walk being in outside of our day-to-day in the industrial kind of cities that we live in. If you can get down to a park, or even better, a little bushland we've got great little areas that are central to Melbourne that have plenty of big trees that you can walk through, even botanical gardens. They're just stunning ways to kind of just reconnect and just feel like that all of those things that you can't control don't really matter. And nature has a wonderful way of reminding us of that.
I love that, where you sort of prioritize controlling the things that you can control and making those the focus. And I think that's really, really important when it comes to general life happiness.
Eating well, choosing the friends that you spend more time with. Like you just got to become ruthless about that. And you as a result, your circle gets bigger and your influence gets bigger, and less, there are less uncontrollables. Like there always will be uncontrollables, and that's okay, but don't let yourself get frustrated by those.
Absolutely. Well, when it comes to learning from our failures, all of us have them, whether they're celebrated or not. And I think these days more and more people are actually facing up to celebrating their failures.
Agree.
Have your failures been a significant learning curve in your life?
Massive. And I'd make a point as CEO of the organisation at Swisse, I'd always make a point to what we call an LGI, a learn, grow and improve moment. And that was when something that we hadn't got right. And I'd talk about the things that I got wrong at Swisse really regularly as I addressed the team, and I'd regularly address the team at least once per month and once a quarter, depending on what sort of issues were happening within the business and how informed we needed to keep the team. But generally during those more stressful times, it was once a month and even weekly at certain times. And I'd talk very openly about the things I'd got wrong, like spending $70 million in the US without making sure that we had enough product on shelf to ensure sell-through, like...
My bad.
Yeah. If I could name a few ambassadors that we had that we'd signed up and I got wrong or hadn't signed up as well, and I'd talk about them, but I probably don't want to go into those now.
Of course not. I do.
30 million's a good one.
Yeah, exactly. I do remember reading about the fact that 9 months before you were going to sell Swisse, you were offered $30 million for the company. And you didn't sell at that particular time. If you had have sold, life would have looked a lot differently right now for you, wouldn't it?
I would have been bankrupt. Yeah.
Yeah. Amazing. So intuitively, it might have been a mix between sort of what you knew in the business side of things and what you projected versus perhaps your intuition. Did you use a mixture of both of these things not to make that mistake and sell early?
Well, my intuition always told me that we were going to be $1 billion business. Everyone else couldn't see it. And look, some saw it in flashes along the way. And I suppose it's compelling enough and convincing enough to keep everyone on the journey. But I didn't see anything less. And I've always, it's funny, when I picked up, my father would recommend Swisse products to his patients. And that's because he, back in the day, there was little regulation in the supplement space. This is before the TGA would list products and so forth. And so it's difficult for him to find something that he could recommend to patients, knowing that what was on the label was actually in the tub. And so Swisse was one of those products that he would recommend. And so we always had it at home as well. And I would always look at the brand affectionately. And that was my intuition saying, hey, you're going to be somewhat more involved than what you think you are with this business. And I couldn't actually contextualize that until a little bit later. But I've also seen that happen in many threads in my life where something just warms to me more so than what another product in the space does or another person does. And just listening to that intuition and finding things rather than seeking has served me well. And so discovery is a beautiful thing, and the universe delivering you connections or considerations and listening to that, because you're creating the sum of that by focusing on your circle of influence, and you start to attract people into that orbit and opportunities into that orbit. So listen to those threads; they'll serve you well.
It's so true. I was just having this conversation earlier today, and someone's name had come up for the third or fourth time in conversation. And I said to the person I was talking to, right, that's the fourth time I've heard it this week. I am taking the nudge. I'm doing something about it. I'll make contact. So it's actually listening and responding to those little things can make such a difference in your life. Now, I'd like to talk about where you're at now. So post Swisse, you've created a company called Light Warrior. Absolutely love that name, by the way. I think it's very powerful. And you're really building companies that are creating social impact and change. Tell me what that means to you and why you've gone down this pathway.
Yeah, sure. So Light Warrior, the name, my wife called me that when she first fell in love with me, so I had to stick with that. And then we've created a foundation called Light Folk. So we're the warriors providing for the good folk, and we bring light to the world in what we do, in all we do. So for me, it's the next iteration of where I was at. So I feel like Swisse for me was like completing my MBA. And it's an MBA that now I have the responsibility to utilize the skills that I've learnt from it and have a major impact on the way business is done globally. And so for me, it's if societies had workplaces that were inspirational, or it was filled with workplaces that were inspirational and fantastic places to be, we would have half the issues, less than half the issues we have facing society at the moment, with inequality, issues with our climate. These issues in society would be much lesser than what they are, and that's because people would feel like that they're much more part of community, and work is a huge part of that. So if we can get work culture right, we are going to have a better society. And how we're going to get people to get on board with this is to show that business can be far more successful on many levels. So the shared value proposition, if they consider their culture, if they consider their people, and we're going to have when people really care and care about each other, they'll care about themselves so much more. They'll look after themselves, and it all kind of feeds itself from this place of health and wellness that I'm coming from originally. So it just makes sense as the next transition for me. And then the other thing I'm trying to work out is that fusion between how capitalism can deal with the fundamental issues of that our community face. And so those that have been left behind, how we can bring them back on board and integrate them into creating more purpose in organisations. So a lot of our companies now work directly in community, giving back and working with those that are probably the least fashionable causes, like ex-drug addicts, people that have come out of prison, and finding them job opportunities, refugees, Indigenous rights and opportunities. And as these organisations get more involved in these kind of causes, what we see and find is that they're gaining more than the people that they are directly helping, because of the satisfaction, the mentoring, the life experience, the appreciation for how things are, and the potential of the future as well is just so much more gratifying than anything else.
Oh, I completely agree with you. And my husband and I were having this conversation earlier as well, about watching sort of certain people in our area here do have reoccurring issues. Like, for example, some of our neighbours down the street, there's an ambulance police every day out the front. And it's not about giving money to these people, it's about giving support to these people who need it the most, and ongoing support. And I think any company who is backing that and making a conscious choice to help in that ongoing way is absolutely doing the right thing and carving the right pathway for other companies who are looking to do the same. So I congratulate you majorly on that pathway. Tell us about some of the not-for-profits that you are working with at the moment.
Yeah, so I think I'm on 7 not-for-profit boards.
Wow. How do you keep track?
They're just fantastic. I'd probably spend a week on, week off. So 50% of my time doing community work, and it's the most fulfilling work that I do. It does create new opportunities in the business world. We've created an impact fund, which is a significant funder of disability housing, solar, and affordable housing and aged care, affordable aged care. So, and that's just some of the industries we've moved into, and delivering great returns and growing as a fund, and getting others to invest, and seeing that you can use capitalism for good. So that one really excites me, but that's not for profit in its pure sense. It's working with not for profits to help create investment opportunities that
amazing.
Deliver for all. And my big vision for that would be that the $4 trillion that are in super funds, that at least $1 trillion of that goes to these sorts of investments, which that make society better. And so we're proving that can be done, and we'll build on that. But yeah, the not-for-profit. So we got Light Folk, which my wife Helen, she's got this amazing vision of creating a conscious living village, and that'll have accommodation, restaurant, and shops, and it'll be all around and it'll be in partnership with a national trust with 70 odd acres of remnant forests.
Wow.
Amazing Indigenous archaeology throughout the place that we'll be bringing to life, and just re-establishing that connection to the land, and then giving the opportunity for the disadvantaged communities, which there are plenty down on the peninsula in Hastings and Rosebud, some of the most left behind groups of minorities in the country. So we're looking forward to sharing those experiences, and then also enhancing people's lives as a kind of a partnership in that. So that's going to be
Light Folk Village. That sounds absolutely incredible. Where is it positioned?
It's in Red Hill.
And is it operating now, or is it something you're working on?
No, so we're wrestling our way through getting all the permits in place and so forth. So that's in process.
It sounds like a bit of a first in its kind type of project.
It is. It'll definitely be something completely free. And it's a full not-for-profit, and it's really exciting to be partnering with someone like the National Trust and working on their Indigenous program and bringing to life our great culture and story as a country here. That's well beyond the 20 or 30 odd years we've all learnt about. That there's a good 80,000 years of culture and heritage that that's there waiting for us to embrace and be very proud of as a nation. So hopefully we'll play our part in doing that.
I'll definitely keep my eyes peeled for that one because it sounds absolutely incredible.
I can go through a couple of the other ones if you like.
Of course, yeah, go for it. Yep, keep going. There's so much. We've got that's two.
Igniting Change, and they're amazing. So Igniting Change is run by Jane Tooson, and she started Comic Relief in the UK, and that was that was Red Nose Day, and here it became something else. Red Nose Day since La Trobe University, National Institute of Integrative Medicine, which my father's the founder of. The Hawthorn Football Club, and then
I'm scarf lying in the background.
And then I'm chairman of Victorian Food and Wine. I'm very passionate about our industry here, and love giving back and creating excitement about our wonderful state.
You're doing obviously incredible and wonderful things for humanity, but for you, how do you manage to stay on top of all of these projects successfully?
Well, for me, it's actually a whole lot easier than when I was a CEO, because the CEO's role is 7 days a week and relentless, whereas I see this as at least my month's organised. I know where I need to be for a board meeting. I contribute, I support. I might do a couple of things after that board meeting to help out or before it, but I'm not the one responsible for making it happen. And as an executive team, yes, so I'm enjoying that, and so I suppose for me it is slowing down a bit.
Yeah, and enjoying life, smelling the roses.
Exactly.
Excellent. Well, I think you've made it pretty clear in what we've discussed so far. But what legacy would you like to leave on the world? Something that you haven't already achieved.
For me, it's just to leave it in a better state than what I came into it as. So the pressure's on. I've got a lot of work to do to make sure that happens, and there are a few initiatives that I'm working on. One is with the B team, which is a group that I'm really proud of working with. Is some of the biggest companies in Australia. Their CEOs and chairs are part of that, and you'd just be amazed. The whole notion of it is that Plan A is not working, and that we need to get on with Plan B, which is more around shared value. And to hear all of these big ASX listed organisations talking about culture and people and it being central to kind of business success going forward is blew me away the first time. And now, we have active working groups that each of us are charged with, and I'm focused on this carbon initiative, which is around solving the climate issues that we face. And if I'm to get that done, that's at least one change that I hope to make before my time's up. But there are a few other bets that I'm getting behind as well, but that's one of them.
It makes my heart sing when I hear people like you and people of influence playing these massive moves and helping ignite humanity and push us forward. I'm Maritza Barone. Thank you for listening to the Things You Can't Unhear podcast. I'd love to keep the conversation going. Let us know what you thought of this episode, and if something really profound came up for you that you want to share, let's talk about it. You can find me on Instagram at Things You Can't Unhear, or on my personal page at Maritza_Barone. And if someone you know will benefit from something that was said in this show, make sure you share it with them too. If you haven't already, hit the subscribe button and keep up to date with what's next. And if you can spare a few seconds, please rate and review the show on iTunes, just so other people can find us more easily and quickly. And as always, my friend, be happy, be healthy, be conscious, and be kind.